Oh, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to talk a little bit today about the impact of AI, and also this has been findings from Horsefly as a business and the clients that we work with, and also many other businesses that are actually out there studying the impact of artificial intelligence on the workforce. I've been with Horsefly for 10 years now, and we are currently at a breakneck speed of impact across the industry. And the world of work is changing. It is changing rapidly. There were thoughts that this was going to be happening in the lights of the next 3 to 5 years. It's happening now. And there's a couple of things on here. You've got the World Economic Forum talking about the biggest rise in certain job titles. And there's no surprise that that is all around automation. It is around security. It's around data. We've got McKinsey reporting that in the last year, 44% of businesses were saying that they were only going to reskill about 5% of their workforce. Over the next 3 years, we see 50% of businesses saying there's a 10% increase in the reskilling that's going to need to happen in order for the workforce to remain relevant. And so today, really want to talk about that shift. How can we think about data? How can we think about how skills are changing, and how can that be impacting your businesses? But also, how can you actually take some stats and start thinking about how could we make some changes within the organization? And again, I just wanted to start some stats again from PwC here, looking at what are the 5 key metrics here. There's a 27% increase or decrease, in certain skills. We've got a 25% net growth on AI-based jobs. And again, all of this is out there publicly for you to be able to go and understand what really is happening out there in the market. Because again, we speak to hundreds of global clients, but your PwCs, your McKinseys, World Economic Forum, etc., have got much, much wider research that you can pull from. So moving beyond job titles, and this is part of what we're talking about today, is how can you think about that? I mean, again, if we go back here, 73% of companies in 2023 were talking about the fact that skills-based hiring was going to be the absolute key for them. That rose to 81% in 2024, and we're already looking at sort of 95% of businesses now saying that it is going to be the way to hire. And I think you look at sort of Drought talking just a minute ago about that whole, it isn't just skills as an individual basis. This is collections of skills that are going to actually be your job roles, your job profiles, and job descriptions in many respects have become a little bit obsolete. And I'm going to play around a little bit with some funny job titles in a second. But so where do we get to now? The data's been around. There's platforms like Horsefly, there's Lightcast, there's Drought, there's lots of people out there that are providing real-time data. And that has been typically accessed from a platform perspective over the years. But now the big shift that we're seeing is how can we take internal job architecture that you have within your organizations and make sense of what that means in the external market? So when we're talking about these skills changes, how do we understand our own workforce, as well as what that looks like against the external market? So what are the skills behind the job titles? How can we understand that? We need to be data informed to retain, retrain, or recruit. And finally, how do we map what the current market looks like? But this isn't just about taking singular jobs. How can we do this at mass and at mass scale? And if your organizations are hiring 5,000 or 5,000, 10,000 plus employees, how could you instantly be able to analyze the most important people within your business? Who can you not afford to lose? And actually, within Horsefly as a platform, one of our latest releases that's gained sort of probably quite a lot of interest has been our AI impact scoring. So at scale, we could analyze, say, 10,000 people to tell you and give you a net promoter type score to understand the impact that artificial intelligence is going to have on skills, on profiles and clusters of skills. So we talk about taxonomy. So there are a number of ways you can access via platform, you can access via CSV upload, you can access, and you can pull this data into your own internal systems as well. So there are numerous ways now, but again, it is that the breakthrough is our AI search builder, which is a hyper-focused large language model, is going to act like a translation engine to change your job architecture into what the external market looks like. And lots of businesses we have seen are talking about how do we build taxonomies for ourselves. But those taxonomies are going to be out of date in 6 months, in 12 months' time. They are evolving. The taxonomy that we have, three-dimensional, it is constantly learning and growing within itself. So, bit of fun. Anybody got any worse job titles than that they want to shout out, feel free. Or you can come and see the lovely Matt, who's at the back of the room here, who will come and you can test anything, by the way. We can do this via our platform, so come and do it, and we will translate what that job means. But look, threat hunting specialist, that's my favourite. I'm going to focus on that one in a minute, but Chief Dream Officer, I'd love that, but I don't know how employable you might be after having it. But, look, this is a really important point. Every business that we speak to has these challenges where there are job titles that are made up, or I say made up, but they are completely, internalized for you as an organization. And if I take this threat hunting specialist, this is a live client we brought on last year. By putting this through our AI search builder or, our sort of translation engine, if you like, this is what you're able to get. Now, so we're talking about this in one isolation, but imagine this across every single job that you're hiring for, every single person internally. We're able to take that job title, which actually, if I search that, and I think on LinkedIn there was about 100 people, something like that, Matt will be able to confirm that. And look, this particular client was struggling, but actually these are the skills. Threat hunting, it's cybersecurity. These are the skills these people have had. And we're analyzing millions and millions of jobs, of profiles, and this is constantly learning from itself. So point one is that we can start to then identify the skills for that particular profile. But then more importantly, actually, again, is how do we then start understanding, well, actually, how many people are there with the skills that we need to do this particular job? Because if I'm searching threat hunting specialists on LinkedIn or any of the other sources, I'm probably going to find very few people. And the likelihood is those people have worked for my organization in the past. So we can understand average salaries, we can understand that remuneration, we can understand what the demand looks like. And again, look, difficulty of hire, AI impact, how much is that going to be impacted? We can look at the skills. What are the other associated skills that we might want to be considering that these people have got within their profile? This data can be accessed, as I said, from a platform perspective or on scale. But it's not just about the skills, because there are a ton of other things that everybody within workforce planning is looking at right now. And that could be anything from ED&I, it could be gender diversity, it could be the experience level. And again, when you think about this data now from an API perspective, you can have this at mass and being able to understand how realistic certain challenges are within your organization. So enterprise API insights at scale I've touched on, but this is kind of a bit of a recap really. So you're going to connect your internal talent data to an external market to be able to, and this technology is really right here now. And this is, if you are in workforce planning and you have got, the opportunity to sort of make an impact in your organization, the cost implications can be significant by having data at your fingertips, and the time spent actually having to actually analyze this. And typically we've seen a big transition that talent acquisition teams are starting to try and do bits of it with platforms, which has taken them so much time. But I wanted to spend probably the last 3 or 4 minutes of the talk today on probably what the evolving workforce looks like. So for the last probably couple of years, this is our third year of coming to People Analytics, there's been talk of the 3 Ps, which is always build, borrow, buy. And I think last year someone came up with the idea, well, not the idea, but the reality of bot. So build, borrow, buy, or bot. And so we're talking about that automation piece. But actually now, how can you, as a business, start to understand who do we need to retain? who are going to be the most important people within your organization as this world of work is shifting that you can't afford to lose. And if you do lose, how expensive is it going to be to retain those people? How do we reward them? How do we understand on a global scale? Because this isn't just about saying, hey, we've got an office in London. The global businesses now are saying, well, should we be offshoring, nearshoring? We've had clients that have taken the stance of looking at, based in the Nordics, very expensive, high demand, high salaries that have actually estimated cost savings of 30 million over a 10-year period by relocating some of their workforce out to Malaysia. That business was Orsted, and you can see that they've actually got, I think, offices and space out there now. But again, so salary, and again, how can reward play a really big impact in different locations and the cost savings there? Retrain. Has anybody here started to think about what the cost implications are within your organization to retrain skills that are no longer going to be in demand? Recruits. That's not going to stop. We're still going to need to hire new people. But again, where? What's the right location? Who are the competitors? Relocate. Again, that whole nearshore, offshore, should we be working in certain areas, particularly if you have challenges around certain, whether it's ED&I, whether it's diversity. We've got clients that have been trying to recruit in certain areas, but also improve their overall DE&I metrics, but the workforce isn't there. And so actually understand that relocate piece. But the retire is probably the hardest thing that we will be facing, is that unfortunately there will be roles which will become no longer needed or retired. Maybe some of them will be reskilled naturally, but ultimately there are roles that are going to be retired. And so we're talking now about the 6 R's rather than the 3 or 4 B's. And it's where I think in workforce planning, you're going to need to sort of really be sort of looking to focus on. And that is everything I'm going to talk about from a Horsefly perspective today. If you've got any questions, please feel free to ask any. I wanted to make sure we gave ourselves a good few minutes. So we got one at the back there.
Hello.
Hi.
I just wanted to ask on the AI piece. So It works really well with like specific job titles, but what other data will it need to take in, or what other kind of steps would need to be taken on really generic job titles that encompass lots of jobs?
Yeah. I mean, look, I think the great thing is that there's probably 2 ways that you can work with this. Certainly from a platform perspective, so you can add in multiple. So you don't just need to put in a job title. So even if you think of the whole job profile, so actually you can actually upload a whole job profile rather than just a job title. So actually that's going to take your, that overall picture, and it does change the results. The results are very, very different. And, we've done this, some of it you might want to tweak. And again, I think certainly with the translation engine that we've built, we've made it so that we're not just completely relying on AI to say that's the search that we should do. It is a real guide to say these are the skills, the most relevant. And again, we could probably, and I think if I go back to the skills that came up here, at any point I could say, well, I want to take PowerShell out, I want to take scripting out, or I want to actually make that a little bit broader. But again, you see this an awful lot with jobs that say, I want this and this and this and this. Well, okay, well, how do we understand what the compromise is necessarily going to be? But it will work warehousing, and it will bring up picker packer and things like that as well.
Mike, could you just elaborate a little bit about what you mean by job profile?
Oh, that's a great question. We talk more about job profile rather than a job title, because actually that is the overall what you're asking for within the description that you're putting out there. So if you just take a job title like threat hunting specialist, for example, it doesn't necessarily mean anything as a job title, but actually within that profile. And again, these skills have been pulled out from analyzing that whole job description then this is going to give you the job profile of the skills that are needed within that particular job.
Assuming that the job descriptions are correct.
Well, yeah. Again, I mean, and with all of this, I mean, again, any translation engine, any kind of AI that you are using, it is learning from what it's been given. So, hence why, yeah.
Any other questions? I have one more that I want to ask, but make sure the audience has a chance. So, can you talk a little bit about how you and your team work with customers going through this process where there are these objections like I just raised, right? Well, our stuff's all over the place. There's no way you can do that, or AI or skills, that's a fad. Like, can you talk a little bit about how you work with customers or prospects to help overcome some of those barriers there are leaders inside the organization saying, no, not now.
Yeah, I mean, I think every business is on a very different journey, and I think we see that there are organisations that perhaps aren't at a point and ready to take data en masse. And again, well, we've got this system and we've got this system. So actually, we've got perhaps businesses which are fully implementing an API, taking this data in, analysing against their own internal workforce. We've got other businesses saying we've only got this in an Excel spreadsheet, and so that's still happening. So people are taking an Excel spreadsheet of job descriptions or even just job titles or even skills. I mean, this will work, again, if we don't want to put a job profile at all, we want to analyze what's adjacent skills to Python, for example. What are the clusters? And I think BJ Drought was talking about that just before. What are the clusters surrounding that? We shouldn't be talking about skills in isolation. That's why I talk about job profile. So there are businesses analyzing and using this data just as a platform basis where they can download reports, go and have conversations internally. But it's finding those champions, I think, within your organization that, how do you make sense of the data? What is the impact? And we've started to do a little bit of work around actually what is the cost implication of, I don't know, 10% of your workforce needing to be retrained? What's the cost implications of you're still hiring for roles which have got a 50% impact of AI, and again, you've got a scoring based on that. So there are huge amounts of areas where this data makes a significant impact from a revenue perspective.
And where do you see the majority of the use case? People are coming to you because they're trying to solve for what?
It is about, globalization of workforces. So where are the workforce? Who are the people that we need to actually need to retain within our organization? Probably still external hiring is a huge piece as well. So identifying talent pools, cost of hiring, but difficulty of hire as well. The interesting thing that I think is that you'll see huge demand right now for skills across AI, but actually they are also some of the highest skills that are potentially at risk of being replaced by AI. So you're going to have the skills to build it, and guess what? It's going to take your job. So, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. We have like another minute left. Any final questions? I just want to wrap it up with, there's actually a fifth B.
Fifth B?
Yes. Anyone know what it is? Beg. That's it. So thank you very much.
And if anybody wants to come over and sort of get any sample data, please do. We're over just over next to Drap. So yeah, happy to help.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.